Hey everyone, my name is David Dunbar, or the Theme Park Evangelist. I'm doing attempt 2 at my vlog from earlier because unfortunately the vlog I had done earlier today on my laptop for whatever reason did not save. I was trying to do a YouTube video regarding my time working at Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. And unfortunately, my laptop's been having a hard time saving videos lately for whatever odd reason. So I was like, well, here, let me switch over to this side of the couch instead. That's a little better. So yeah, I decided, well, I'll just go ahead and do another YouTube video tonight um, regarding um, what it was like for me to work at Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, which is actually the next part of my life as a working Disney cast member series, and it is also the last Magic Kingdom vlog because after this, I am going to be discussing what it was like to work at Toy Story Land, and then finally Epcot Custodial. So hang tight, buckle up, because here we go. We're going to talk about what it was like to work at uh, whatever you call it, Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. So yeah, it was a very interesting experience. Um, um, how should I put this? Let me start from the beginning. So I first became interested in cross training over there at the beginning of 2018, which was my very first full year at Tomorrowland Attractions or in Tomorrowland Attractions. So I went to the manager's office, and every manager's office has paperwork that allows you to choose which attractions you want to cross train to. And cross training means learning a no attraction while still working at your current one. So you still get the same amount of hours, but you don't necessarily have to work at the same attraction every single week or whatever. So I was like, well, this is great. I would love this. And I put down Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin as my number one, and I even said to a manager, I don't think I can handle Space Mountain. The funny thing is, the manager was very optimistic about it. The manager was like, well, what makes you think that? I think you could do great, and at the time, I didn't think I could handle that much, especially after Test Track's disaster. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I appreciate the modesty and all that fun stuff, and I appreciate the fact that Magic Kingdom was so patient with me that entire year because I was not happy with Tomorrowland Speedway, and they knew I wasn't happy with Tomorrowland Speedway, and it had nothing to do with them either. It was just the whole fact that that whole year was just a struggle with me with Tomorrowland Speedway. Tomorrowland Speedway is just not an easy attraction to work at. So yeah, I submitted the paperwork, and all you had to do was basically play the waiting game. And meanwhile, you're seeing all these other people who were way before you getting chosen to go to their attractions, and you just kept wondering, when am I going to get to go? And I didn't realize how it works. So they have people or cast members that are called coordinators of training, which are supervisors or coordinators that are learning to become coordinators of an area, and also these guys also become coordinators of usually one or two attractions. So a coordinator of training came to me in early November of 2018 and handed me a piece of paper after I've already gotten the email, by the way. Basically, with my training schedule for Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, I basically saw it as early birthday present, so to speak. I was so excited. I posted something on my personal Facebook, and I'm like, yes, I'm finally going to learn Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. This is like super awesome and all that fun stuff. And so it was ironic when I did learn the attraction. It was right around the time that it was getting really cold in Florida, and at the time I didn't know how to handle the cold. I obviously know better now. Dealing with my first legit winter, obviously it's nothing like Canada, but still, obviously Florida, their winters um, can be pretty rough for what Florida considers rough. And excuse me, I remember one day I was up in the Tomorrowland um, training lounge because a lot of your training for attractions, as I mentioned before, for the Tomorrowland Speedway, is spent in the Tomorrowland Lounge, or basically the Tomorrowland training room, and it overlooks Tomorrowland Speedway. And all I could think of was how miserable they had to feel out there, and how glad I was to be inside in the warmth. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And I had to read through the entire operations guide, which is how the ride is operated. I had to take a lot of notes and all that fun stuff. Kind of glad I'm redoing this because I'm going over a little more detail that I didn't do earlier. And a lot of training is switching between being up there, reading, taking notes, and then actually practicing that position yourself. So, when I did get the chance to learn the positions, obviously they didn't really need to spend a lot of time on Fast Pass and Grader because they're basically the same. Merge was almost the same as it was at Tomorrowland Speedway. I will say this much. When I learned the merge at Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, it was basically put right in front of where Buzz Lightyear is. And you had to obviously let more Fast Pass go. And because there was constant Fast Pass guests going through, it seemed like they would never end. And every once in a while you had to send some standby, but most of the time you had to send Fast Pass. Now I didn't say this earlier while I was doing my other vlog, but obviously a year ago we had Fast Pass and now we don't. I guess Disney feels like they don't need Fast Pass to deal with during a pandemic, so I'm can understand why FastPass has currently been eliminated from the Walt Disney World system, but that doesn't mean it won't. It's not eliminated completely. I'm sure it will come back in the future because it is a amazing Disney option. So I'm making sure I had to send all these guys through, and then of course if you ever see a handicap party, you had to send them down this hallway down all the way down to the exit, and another cast member would greet them and help them get on the ride safely and as best to help them as possible. But before that, there would be another cast member that would be loading the other parties, and this cast member would basically have to stop the guests whenever a ride vehicle that was coming around that was out of service or was currently not working at the time. So this cast member had to constantly be watching that. I mean, we wouldn't want an angry guest, and then you have to let them re-ride, and that's frustrating to guests who have been waiting forever, and then you get to see these guests re-riding like, oh, that's not fair. I want to re-ride again, and then you would have to, do the same thing for everybody. So, you have to be careful, and that could cause the line to grow even longer. So yeah, it was kind of frustrating, and then I'm also note or I also learned that there was another position that could happen from time to time. And this was another cast member that would be assisting the grouper basically, which was the first position I was talking about. And this cast member basically just made sure that everybody was getting in their ride vehicles before it passed through a sensor. The sensor is placed right after the cast member closing the space cruiser shields, and the space cruiser shields can be closed by a guest, but the cast member at the ride console is supposed to make sure they're all closed and also supposed to close them if they're not being closed. And most of the time, people don't close their space cruisers anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And I can tell you right now, most cast members actually like that role. From what I've talked about, they act like they don't, But ironically, most of the cast members are like, "Oh yeah, I really like this role. It's very nonstop and it's very involved." And then you get on the intercom a lot. People like to get on the intercom as well, so it's kind of cool. Or I should say the PA system. So yeah, that's another cool thing that I liked about that position was getting to close the space cruiser shields, and also that cast member had to have a remote that would control the speed of the ride, either slow down or stop it. Sometimes guests would wait until the absolute last minute to decide what ride vehicle they wanted. Sometimes they didn't necessarily want to choose the next empty one. Sometimes they wanted something specific, something close to their group or their family, friends, whatever. And sometimes they'd be wandering up and down the belt, and if they were just not quick enough, you would sometimes have to stop the entire ride. It was kind of annoying. And then you would be thinking to yourself, really? Come on. And then there was a cast member at the exit who would have to be walking on the conveyor belt. And keep in mind that both cast members that walk on the conveyor belt, one is only used sometimes, the other one is used all the time. They can't just ride on it because that would be an immediate safety violation, and it would mean immediate e-stop of the ride and also a write-up. So you don't want to do that. I know it's insane, right? But you know how it is. But as far as the exit goes, so the cast member that would be walking on the belt is basically supposed to tell everybody, "Watch your step, please. Watch your step, please." Literally to every single space cruiser that's opening up. And you would just keep walking forward and just watching all these space cruisers coming in. And you had to be ready for any time that the ride would go down. You also had to be ready for handicap parties that would be coming and getting on the ride vehicle. You had to be prepared to assist them if need be. The other cast member is supposed to hang out by the area where the handicap parties would go. This cast member literally has more to do than anybody. This cast member had to find out how many people were coming. They had to write down how many people were coming through. So it would give the coordinators a better idea of how many people were coming through that day that needed special assistance. Also, this cast member had to slow down the ride, if not stop it completely. Sometimes not even neither. And that's why this cast member even had to have a remote on them as well. That would allow them to control the speed of the ride. And this cast member had to help these guests load on the ride. And the fun one was this ride vehicle called 50 that is this big bulky ride vehicle basically, and you had to wait until a certain moment. There was a mark on the wall, and you would have to slow down the ride as soon as it hit that wall. Like the ride vehicle came near that wall, and you only had like 30 seconds to get that door lowered, get the wheelchair safely and quickly loaded on without necessarily decapitating the guest or even injuring the guest for that matter, and then getting out, closing the space cruiser shield, and making sure it was safely shut and the door wasn't going to just fling open again. And you had to try to do this without necessarily slowing down, or sorry, stopping the ride altogether if you had already slowed it down. Because I'll tell you right now, the Disney Operation Command Center, or better known as DOC, needs to know anytime you stop the ride, because they're the ones that are monitoring all the ride queue lines. That's why every single Disney ride has security cameras throughout the entire queue line, so they know how long the line is, they know how slow it's moving, they know all that stuff. So yeah, kind of creepy that you're being watched, but it's all for a good reason. And here's another interesting fact about Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. There are no security cameras in the ride itself, just in the queue line. However, though, the ride is full of pressure mats. So the ride, of course, is basically a revamp of a former ride called Take Flight. So Take Flight opened with Tomorrow Land, and then eventually they rethemed it to Buzz Lightyear, and it has been that since. So they're still using the same ride technology. Whenever something heavy enough drops on one of the sensor mats, which are literally throughout the entire ride, the ride will immediately e-stop. All the lights will turn on, and all these I guess you could say barricades will come up on both sides of the ride track so that nobody could fall out and injure themselves. And I do think that's really cool. I did also get the opportunity to ride a couple of times before the ride officially opened to the public. And if you worked at that attraction, you worked there long enough, you will pretty much figure out all of the different um, secret spots to earning a lot of Z's. Because obviously, you want to shoot the targets while you're going on the ride to make sure the laser functioning is working properly, and otherwise, that ride vehicle is not going to be used that day. And also is to make sure the ride is even safely able to use. And a lot of the reasons why cast members have to test ride the ride before it officially opens to the public is to make sure it's 100% safe to for the guests to ride that day. And I will say this right now, Test Track did the same thing. Buzz Lightyear does the same thing. Tomorrow Land Speedway does the same thing. I'm pretty sure every single Disney ride does the same thing. But rides like Buzz Lightyear Test Track that you're able to literally power and cause the ride to run without necessarily like having a cast member in the ride vehicle to cause it to run, like Tomorrow Land Speedway. Those rides usually need a couple of hours to run before a cast member is able to ride it, and the supervisor and also maintenance has to make the call as to whether the ride is 100% safe to operate that day to the public. I know this for a fact because I operated a few Disney rides myself, and I have seen that like what is to happen. Alien Swirling Saucers I feel like was the same way. If it was not safe to run that day, then obviously you could not run it at all whatsoever. So yeah, I was really glad that I never had to deal with like a ride that didn't wasn't ready to operate properly that day. Because I'll tell you this right now is the most embarrassing thing ever. When you have to stand in front of the attraction all day, explain to the guests that your favorite ride that you came all the way from wherever state you or country you live just to go ride is not even working, and that you're not even sure why it's not working. And here's the thing: cast members are not told what's going on with the ride. Cast members are not even sure how like why rides break down or anything like that. I've had a few issues working at Alien Swirling Saucers where one side will go down. Sometimes both sides will go down at the same time, and we weren't 100% sure. There was one incident that we found out about after the fact, and when it first went down, we didn't know what happened, and we did end up finding out about like 30 minutes to an hour later that the air pressure went out on Slinky Dog Dash. Someone turned it off for whatever reason, and both Alien Swirling Saucers and Slinky Dog Dash are interconnected. And when I went to close the gates on Alien Swirling Saucers and they failed to do so, I immediately e-stopped the entire ride, so to speak, or I wouldn't allow anybody to ride. I was like, well, we're gonna have to tell everybody to get off, and that's pretty much what I did. And I discovered right away there was an issue, and it wasn't going to be safe for people to ride because the ride cannot run if the ride gates are open. And I feel like Disney has definitely been putting more safety measures in place as their technology has been getting better and their rides are becoming newer. And Buzz Lightyear still runs on a lot on older technology, but that doesn't mean that they don't have safety measures in place to keep people safe. So, yeah, I hope you guys were educated by learning all about Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. I hope I got you guys a little excited for my Toy Story Land vlog, which I'm going to do tomorrow, at least my very first one. And I'm once again super excited about Friday, and I will see you guys in the next vlog. And always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great night. Peace out.